Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Given to temptation, pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. In a recent article published on Esence magazine's website written by a Michael Arsenault, he states in an op-ed piece that Bill Cosby can't save his legacy. And he presents the argument that Bill Cosby can't save his legacy because his reputation was marred by a sexual assault conviction and an alleged noted disdain for blacks who did not meet his expectations. Now, when I take a critical examination of these opinions, they come from a place of ignorance, because it's clear to me that your Michael Arsenault really does not understand what Bill Cosby has done for black people, nor does he understand the whole concept of legacy. Now, according to your Michael Arsenault, your Bill Cosby's reputation is marred by a sexual assault conviction. And it's clear to me that your Michael Arsenault did not do his research on the facts as related to that complete railroading of Bill Cosby by the Pennsylvania criminal justice system. Because when you take a clear examination of the facts objectively, you can see the bias being presented as related to this effort by this prosecutor to get a conviction against Bill Cosby. Now, there's clearly malice of forethought and a malicious prosecution of Bill Cosby as related to Kevin Steele, and he ran on this as a political platform when he was running for the job of district attorney in Philadelphia. And as I see it, that should have clearly disqualified Kevin Steele as a prosecutor, because a prosecutor is supposed to represent the state in presenting facts as related to evidence, and it's clear to me that your Kevin Steele had malice of forethought and clear bias as related to Bill Cosby, and he was not thinking about getting due process under the law as related to the Fourth and Sixth Amendment in Bill Cosby's case. No, he had a personal vendetta looking to destroy Bill Cosby, and that should have disqualified him as being a prosecutor on this case. Moreover, the judge in this case clearly also showed bias because his wife had been working with domestic violence victims, and again, this should have disqualified him because he could not present an objective picture as related to maintaining order in his court. So those two individuals have been practically passed over by your Michael Arsenault in his whole op-ed piece as related to Bill Cosby's reputation, and that's something that shows, again, no objectivity there. Now, your Bill Cosby sexual assault conviction was gotten through, as I see it, a malicious prosecution, and this malicious prosecution was done because this Kevin Steele had a vendetta against Bill Cosby, and even after he got a hung jury the first time, he then tried to stack the deck against Bill Cosby the second time, bringing in hearsay witnesses and questionable evidence and questionable ethics practices as related to that trial. And the judge also participated in questionable actions, showing that there was clearly this case, if it was taken to an appeals court, which was objective, the whole case would be thrown out based on the numerous judicial errors and the numerous violations of Bill Cosby's Fourth and Sixth Amendment rights as related to due process under the law and the constitutional right to have witnesses who do not present hearsay. Presenting hearsay is something under federal statutes that's considered illegal, but the state judge allowed this to happen in the Bill Cosby trial, showing us all it was a complete railroading of Bill Cosby and set a dangerous legal precedent that led to men in America not being able to get due process under the law. That also is something Michael Arsenault has not really thought about critically. The whole legal precedent of the Cosby sexual assault conviction has done damage to men's rights here in America. But because you have racists so caught up in trying to destroy the legacy of a black man, they can't even see how they imploded men's rights here in America. And that's where I can agree with Camille Cosby when she states that this whole railroading of Bill Cosby is racist, because these racists were so caught up in their feelings about a black man being an accomplished, successful individual who would die and pass on and leave a legacy to inspire others, that they wanted to go out with malice aforethought to destroy Bill Cosby's professional reputation and destroy his legacy by revealing these personal indiscretions and then trying to spin it into an allegation of sexual violence, which they tried to use to railroad him through the criminal justice system. Now, according to your Michael Arceneaux in this Esence magazine article, he states that Bill Cosby's reputation would be marred by this sexual assault conviction, but I don't believe it's marred. Nor do I believe his legacy would be marred by the alleged numerous affairs that he had with these women who are all coming out saying that they all have allegedly the same story. Because if all of these other iconic figures out here, and I can name several of them, like your Clark Gable, who had an affair with an actress and then had an illegitimate child, is Clark Gable's legacy marred? Is Clark Gable's legacy unsavable? Clark Gable is considered one of the legendary actors in Hollywood, but it has been known for years that he had an affair in the 1930s with another actress who was an Oscar-winning actress earlier in her career. I think her name was Loretta Young. Yeah, it was Loretta Young. He had an affair with Loretta Young. They had a child out of wedlock. And does that mar Clark Gable's legacy? Does it mar Loretta Young's legacy? No. When it came down to Clark Gable, he became one of the all-time great actors. And when it came down to Loretta Young, she became one of the all-time great actresses, winning an Oscar and then going on to participate in great work in the Catholic Church. So if it didn't mar their legacy with their affairs, then how does it mar Bill Cosby's legacy for him to have had these affairs with these women? Yes, it was morally wrong under the Most High living God, but it doesn't mar the legacy that Bill Cosby built for black people. And because we can look in the past of many of these white actors, we can look in the past of people like Ben Affleck and many other white actors and see affairs, and none of those actors were told that their legacies would be trashed if they went out here and had those affairs. I mean, when I look at that argument, it's just so shoddy because it shows the selective outrage some people have for Bill Cosby and the racism they have against Bill Cosby, because you're going to say Bill Cosby's legacy is not something that can be saved, but you're going to give all of these other white actors and white celebrities who have had affairs a pass, and you're even going to give some of these people who have had sexual convictions. I mean, when you look at Mike Tyson, is Mike Tyson's legacy unsalvageable? He also has, as I see it, a rape conviction against him. I mean, is Mike Tyson's legacy unsalvageable? According to Michael Arceneaux's logic, Mike Tyson would have a legacy that can't be saved. But when we look at Mike Tyson today, Mike Tyson is growing and thriving right now. Again, showing the selective outrage that people have, and clearly an agenda to destroy Bill Cosby, because when it comes down to white supremacy, they want to make Bill Cosby a bad guy because he has done so much good in the black community. Now, in addition to the argument that your Michael Arceneaux makes in Esence magazine regarding Bill Cosby being unable to save his legacy, he also presents in his piece an alleged disdain for blacks who didn't meet his expectations. Now, this argument is being presented as related to Bill Cosby's legendary pound cake speech, And he's clearly taking the arguments of that pound cake speech out of context. Now, Bill Cosby, when he presented that argument as related to the pound cake speech, was really expressing his disappointment about these black single mothers and these ghetto individuals who continue to remain in dysfunction year after year and decade after decade, in spite of numerous efforts by black people to give them opportunities at help and support. And he's clearly expressing his disgust because when you look at the black community from a panoramic picture, black people have been given numerous opportunities as related to getting help from people like Mr. Cosby. And when he looks at the ghetto, when he looks at these single mothers, he's not expressing disdain, as I see it, disdain for them. He's really disappointed in them because instead of taking the tools that are put in front of them to change their lives, a lot of black people would rather wallow in the ghetto and be stuck in this codependent situation where they continue to play the victim and take the crumbs from the table of the welfare state instead of taking those tools to build themselves up and move their lives forward. And as someone like Bill Cosby, who is older, what that man is going to say after doing things like giving kids full ride scholarships and providing programming to help inspire and uplift young black men and young black women like Fat Albert, things like The Cosby Show, things like A Different World, shows like this, which were designed to present you with a positive image of black people and black life. When he looks back at his older age and still sees black people sitting in the ghetto on the welfare state, still living with a victimized and self-hating mindset, Bill Cosby is saying to himself that he's really disappointed with black people because here you have 2 to 3 generations of black people who should be up on a higher level than he is, and they're still wallowing in the same ghetto because when it comes down to many of those black people, they have a mentally damaged mindset from their mothers who taught them a culture of victimization and taught them a culture where they don't have to take responsibility for anything and that everything is the fault of either an imaginary white man or it's a fault of the system. And while those things may be true in some ways, there's some responsibility that the black man and black woman have to take for themselves. And that's something Bill Cosby wanted to express to people with the pound cake speech because he was only talking about a small portion of the black community, these ghetto individuals who still want to remain in this ghetto culture created by white supremacists to keep them at the bottom of the world. And that's where he was expressing his disappointment because these black people still want to be victims, and there's all this opportunity out here for them to empower themselves, but they would rather still be slaves on the plantation rather than going out here and taking advantage of the freedoms that were given to all black people after the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Now, I can listen to the pound cake speech and see it objectively as something that Mr. Cosby was doing to give black people a wake-up call, but these people like this Michael Arsenault, they want to present it as him talking about disdain for blacks. There was no disdain in that speech. Anybody who has had a father in their life or has dealt with male authority figures knows that when a man comes at you that way, he is expressing the greatest love a man could express for another man, and that is that tough love. And the tough love comes from a place where the man knows you can do better, the man knows you can be a better person, but you don't want to step up. I mean, it's just like that first episode of The Cosby Show where Theo said he wanted to be just a normal guy. And I remember that episode because it just resonated with me when after he said that, we would, in most normal sitcoms, we would get the aw moment and he would give him a hug. But instead, Bill Cosby's Cliff Huxtable looked at the boy, cut a look at him and said, "That's the stupidest thing I ever heard." and roasted him. And that didn't resonate with me until I got into my late 20s and early 30s about what Bill Cosby was saying right there. But that was a father coming down on his son and letting him know that he's not going to accept substandard as his standard, and he was not going to let him get a pass for mediocrity or let him have excuses for incompetence. So in that episode, he was showing a father coming down with tough love on his son and letting him know that he was not going to settle for less when it came down to his grades, settle for less with his conduct, settle for less when it came down to life, because he understood that a man's role in this world is to be a leader, a protector, and a provider, and a man has to carry himself and take care of himself on his own. And you trying to be so-called normal is not going to work in a world of white supremacy where they don't expect you to be anything at all, because they see you as less than, and their standard for normal for you is nothing. And he knew that his son, if he ever wanted to do something in his life, needed to understand that you're going to have to go out here and put in that work. You're going to have to go out here and grind, and you're too afraid to go out here and grind. And that was what I got from that pilot episode of The Cosby Show that resonates with me today, because when Bill Cosby talked like that, I had known from my own personal experience that this is how it means to be a man. When you're a man out here, nobody is going to accept substandard from you. Nobody's going to accept mediocre from you. And you are working for yourself, so you have to take responsibility for yourself. So I understood where he was coming from with the pound cake speech, because it resonates all the way back to the talk he had with Theo in that first episode in the third act of The Cosby Show, because that third act was him demanding better of Theo, and he was demanding better of the black community. And this flies over the heads of beta males like your Marco Arsenault, who wrote this article, because they're used to white society giving them a pass for substandard, giving them a pass for mediocre, and expecting less than the best from them. And they want that to be their standard, because they want to live in the smooth world where they can be accepted by white people. But Bill Cosby wanted better for black people. And that's where it comes to legacy, because Bill Cosby's legacy, as I see it, is cemented because Bill Cosby demanded better of black people, and his legacy was all about excellence. And he took the black community to another level with his work in shows like I Spy, and more importantly, his work on shows like Fat Albert and The Cosby Show. That legacy was showing us that we can do better and we can be better, and it's all about us valuing ourselves. And that legacy is not something that is going to be marred, because when it comes down to legacy, your Michael Arsenault and the Esence magazine doesn't understand what legacy is all about. Now, I just got through writing a story for the ISIS series called ISIS Legacy, and this story was about the ISIS character helping the granddaughter of one of the Theta founders of the Theta sorority learn about the legacy of her mother and her grandmother as related to that sorority and the black town that was built on Oneonta County. And this story, ISIS Legacy, is where I show the whole concept of legacy and what it really means, because legacy is something that isn't just about what the man built, it is also about what the woman teaches as related to culture, because you need both the man and the woman in order to have a legacy. And a legacy, again, is one part the man building the empire or building the items that have value, but more importantly, it is the woman teaching people the value of what was built and why they should care about it. that's what legacy is all about. And legacy is going to be cemented because, one, Bill Cosby went out here and built something great, but then two, we had women like Felicia Rashad going out here to preserve his legacy, and most importantly, Camille Cosby going out here to preserve his legacy, because they taught us why that legacy was important, why that legacy was valuable, and more importantly, the ultimate part of legacy after the man builds and the woman teaches is the children learning why they should care about that legacy. And I'd have to say Bill and Camille Cosby have done an amazing job in teaching us the value of his legacy, because all of us who were of my generation, who were the children during Bill Cosby's time, we understand the value of everything Bill Cosby worked for, because we grew up in an age where they were trying to promote old stereotypes about black men being criminals, black men being brutes, black men being violent and out of control on numerous cop shows and TV shows. But Bill Cosby gave us a humanized image of black men, gave us an image of a responsible black father, gave us an image of a middle-class black family doing well, and his legacy is cemented. As I see it, he is an icon as related to black society, and that's something that can't be taken away, because that's something everybody has been taught in Generation X and will continue to be taught down the years, because Bill Cosby has gone out here and done so much for black people, in addition to, again, giving people shows like Fat Albert, teaching kids that black kids have a value and representation in society. The Cosby Show, which taught us many lessons about black life that were never shown in mainstream media, and teaching people as related to his lectures, and also going out here and helping out young brothers and sisters by giving them things like full ride scholarships to promote black excellence, and going out here and helping black people in ways that other people haven't. I mean, if you look at Bill Cosby's legacy, I mean, if you look at things, he opened the door for so many black people. I mean, he opened the door for Melvin Van Peebles by giving him that $50,000 to finish Sweetback, which practically opened the door for black cinema. If you look at what Bill Cosby has done, I mean, this man's legacy hasn't been saved, it is cemented. But the ultimate thing that black people need to understand is white supremacy wants to tear down Bill Cosby's legacy, and what's troubling is they want to use black institutions like Esence magazine to tear down Bill Cosby's legacy, because this article being presented in Esence magazine is one of the most troubling things for me when you consider originally Esence magazine was founded by black men to elevate the image of black women and elevate the image of an ideal of black women. But now the magazine has fallen into a dysfunctional corporate hands, and now the hands of a dysfunctional black male. And they have decided to use this magazine to demonize Bill Cosby, and again, showing us how they're going to try to use a black institution to promote anti-black racism, and showing us that they want to use our media to promote propaganda, because this article, while it alleges to be op-ed, is nothing more than a piece of anti-black racism perpetuated to black people, and this is done to brainwash black people who don't go out here and do their research on Bill Cosby to see him as some sort of villain. And what black people have to do is push back against this kind of media, because this kind of media presents false narratives regarding Bill Cosby. Again, as I see it, Bill Cosby's legacy is not lost. Bill Cosby's legacy is saved, because if you're going to say Bill Cosby's legacy can't be saved, then we can also say that Thomas Jefferson's legacy can't be saved. And we can say, again, numerous other white actors like Clark Gable their legacy can't be saved, but their legacies are cemented, and people learn from them, and we can learn from Bill Cosby and all of his great contributions and great works, and we can say that, okay, he's done some bad things in the past, like these adulterous affairs, but that has no bearing on all of the good contributions that Bill Cosby has given to the black community. As I see it, again, Bill Cosby's legacy is cemented, and people are going to become inspired by him, and I was inspired by him to create the SJS Direct imprint. It was the works of men like Bill Cosby and Robert Townsend and the Hudlin brothers that inspired me at 17 years old to dedicate myself to creating positive stories about the African American experience and African American culture, and build on the legacy of shows like The Cosby Show. That's what inspired me to go out here and create books like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and push further diversity with things like the Spinsterella trilogy. All of those things that I saw on The Cosby Show, like Denise Huxtable being a boho, was one of the reasons why I came up with Matilda Crowley as a black goth. And all of that work that Bill Cosby has done inspired me. I mean, his legacy goes on, and it's going to go on in the end with other black writers, black artists, and black creators out here. So that whole argument of Bill Cosby not being able to save his legacy, that's a lie. His legacy is going to go on, and it's going to be carried on not by his children, but by all of these brothers and sisters out here who learned from Bill Cosby, all of those brothers and sisters who got full ride scholarships from Bill Cosby, all of those people out here who got help and support from Bill Cosby in direct and indirect ways. All of those people are going to carry on his legacy, and there's nothing that white supremacy can do to destroy Bill Cosby's legacy, because there were too many black people who learned from Bill Cosby, and those black people, after they learn from him, are going to carry on his legacy to the next generation and beyond. If you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction featuring black heroes and black heroines and black families that are inspired by the Bill Cosby legacy, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, the Spinsterella trilogy, and my men's issues books, you can head over to Amazon.com and pick up those books in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords and the iBookstore. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam: The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam: The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today.